What's going on, everybody? My name is James Armour, and I'm the founder and president of Inland Compassion. And today I'm going to give you a brief run through on how to apply for grants, where to get started, basically the basics of grant writing, where to look for grants. And I'm going to walk you through an actual live demo of how a grant application typically looks like. This year, I have been able to help raise $92,000 in funding, 72,000 for Inland Compassion, as well as a grant for 20,000 for the nonprofit that I also work for. So overall, I have a proven track record of earning funding through grant writing. Overall, this is going to be a workshop for nonprofits in particular. And we are located out of Moreno Valley, California. And we have a program currently that we are implementing for homeless outreach. And we have a contract with the city of Moreno Valley. And so moving forward, we're going to be having a lot of workshops and tutorials on how to help grow your nonprofit, how to adhere to contracts, how to write grants, do case management, homeless outreach, and stuff like that. So let's get started. We are Inland Compassion, and my name is James Armour. Let's go. All right, so the agenda for today is we're going to go over the basics of grant writing. We're going to talk about what is needed when it comes to writing a grant. We're going to talk about what to look, how to fill out the application itself, the importance of community partnerships, and at the end, we're going to give a quick shout out to the things that we're doing currently to help other nonprofits succeed. So let's go over the basics. First, before you even start writing a grant, you need to have a program in mind. Usually, this program revolves around your why. Why are you in social work? Why are you in social services? Why did you create or want to create a nonprofit? And what is going to be the purpose of your program? So, you always want to relate with our why. So here at Inland Compassion, our why is to help those who are struggling, such as the unhoused and families in danger of being unhoused. So that's our focus. Our program revolves around that. So at the end of the day, our mission statement, everything that we do in Inland Compassion revolves around that why. That helps to keep us motivated to continue to do the things that we do because it takes a lot of hard work implementing a program and running a nonprofit. Next, you need to consider the need. You need to consider the populations that are in need, what services are already in place, where are the gaps, and what is actually needed. So, for example, here in Moreno Valley, you would think that for the unhoused, let's say, for example, you thought maybe the biggest need is clothing, right? And things like that. Well, actually, the greatest need besides a shelter in Moreno Valley is food. Most of the unhoused out here need food, hand warmers, and warm clothing at nighttime, right? So, overall, without doing a community needs assessment, which will be a workshop we'll do in the future, overall, we must assess what is the greatest need, what services are already in place, and where are the gaps. When you figure this out, you can kind of tweak your program a bit that revolves around your why to address these needs and gaps. Next, you want to consider the population. So, a lot of people make the mistake of wanting to help everybody. Now, that's very noble, and a lot of people can do that, a lot of organizations and stuff. But overall, you want to kind of stick to a certain population. You want to be the expert of that population, correct? So, when you're the expert of that population, you're going to get other organizations and county entities and stuff like that turning to you for advice, consultation, programs, things like that, because you are the expert. So, here at Inland Compassion, our population focus is mainly adults and families. And of course, the adults lead the families. So overall, unhoused adults, men and women, and unhoused families, in particular, giving them resources and services through case management and our monthly events to provide them with the resources they need to enhance their lives, make life a little bit better, correct? After that, you need to know what interventions you're going to do. And it can't just be any interventions, it has to be evidence based. So, what is an intervention? You're intervening in between something that's causing someone to struggle. For example, one intervention could be transitional shelter, right? That would be an intervention. You're intervening on the situation that they have, which is homelessness, and then you're giving them an opportunity to get back on their feet so they can transition into a permanent housing solution. So overall, consider your intervention, do some research, and make sure that it's evidence based. Another thing that grants are looking for, besides the need, the program, the population, and the interventions, they want to know, are you able to do a good evaluation process? Are you able to collect the data you needed to show grant makers in the county and the population that you're serving that you are able to run a successful program, that it's actually successful? So consider the tools that you're going to use for your evaluation. There's all kinds of tools that you can use, from audits to surveys to customer satisfaction surveys and interviews, things like that. So you want to collect as much data as possible. You want to be evaluating your services, your program. So in the future, when you apply for other grants, the grant maker is going to be like, yeah, they know what they're doing. They know how to evaluate their work, and they have a proven track record. Lastly, a lot of grant makers want to know, are you able to be sustainable? Can you create a sustainable program that's going to continue even after the funding stops? Either fundraising, charging insurances, doing things like workshops, grant writing, getting donations, things like that. So you need to be able to show some way, somehow, that you can be sustainable. This is super important, and these are the basics. Consider all these things first before you decide to write a grant. It's going to save you a lot of time, headache, and of course, make sure your board members are on page with you. You guys all vote on these things and you can move forward. Because if you get the grant and you're rewarded the grant, you will be having to do the things that you said you're going to do. So if your board members aren't on board with it, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble, right? Next, like I said, we want to assess the need in the community. What is the greatest need in the community? So out here, one of the greatest needs is the high cost of living. The high cost of living has people sleeping in their cars, sleeping in their family members' living room, things like that, sleeping on the streets, going in and out of shelters, things like that. So the unhoused crisis here in Moreno Valley is something that needs to be addressed, because unfortunately we do not have a shelter out here to help folks. So we have to help them go outside of the city to other cities to be able to find a bed that's going to help them. Correct? And again, as we talked about, we want to assess the service gaps and services addressing the need. So out here, we figured out through Home Connect and the COC that there is a homeless outreach gap. There's not that many services in Moreno Valley right now that are providing homeless outreach. So this is super crucial, super important. This is something that we want to address, and we had to figure that out through our community needs assessment. Not only do we survey the community, but we also forge connections and network with other organizations, either nonprofit, for profit, or with the county, to figure out what is going on, who is providing what, and go from there. Next, we want to document the need with data. So whatever information you find out, document it. Make sure you can be able to articulate that in some kind of writing, so grant makers can see that, yeah, they have proof that this is what's going on, this is what's lacking, and this is what is needed. And the program that they created addresses those needs. So boom, make sure that you document the need with data. Lastly, create a program that addresses the needs and service gaps. So obviously, we start with our why, but again, the program that we originally start off with, it's going to be tweaked here and there. Remember, grants have their own things that they're looking for and that they want. So your program might be in similarity with what they need, but you might have to adjust it so you can be able to meet the grant requirements. So, for example, some grants are really focusing on equity and cultural competence. Other grants are really focusing on the data they want, or marketing, so things like that. So always make sure when you're writing a grant, you read the grant application over and over and over again. You want to have that thing memorized, right? Next, get prepared. So, of course, whether you are just starting a nonprofit, considering to start a nonprofit, already started it, these are going to be the things that you must get prepared with in advance. So, first, ensure that your 501(c)(3) is active. You want to make sure that you are tax exempt. Not only do you must be tax exempt with the IRS, federal non-exemption, or exemption, but you want to make sure that you're tax exempt with the state. So for Inland Compassion, we got a 501(c)(3 federal tax exemption, and then we got it with the state of California. So this is super important. Make sure that you're in good standing, right? Next, ensure that you're registered with the Attorney General. The Attorney General is another thing that you're gonna have to sign up for and register with. It's a $50 cost. Organizations, the government, things like that, private foundations, they're going to look to see if you're in good standing with the Attorney General. Because if you're not in good standing, a lot of times that they won't take you serious, and your grant application might get denied. A lot of places kind of don't look for it, but I've noticed about 6 out of 10 applications I've filled out, they want to make sure that you're in good standing with the Attorney General. Lastly, of course, you want to register with the Secretary of State, get your articles of incorporation, have copies of the articles of incorporation, because more than likely grants are going to ask to see it. Next, you need to go to sam.gov and get a UEI number. This is super important. Not only do you get a UEI number, you get a cage number. This thing might take 2 months, so you need to get it done now, because when you apply for a federal and a state grant, they're going to ask for those numbers. Next, you need to go to grant.gov. Grant.gov is where you're going to find a lot of the federal grants. This is super important. A lot of the big money is with the federal grant. So make sure you go to grant.gov and register for that. Next, you need to make an account on grant.gov for Workspace, so your board members or whoever is going to help you with the grant writing can also help you out with that. And you want to make an account at ERA Commons. This is going to be where you're usually going to fill out the actual federal grant. Yeah, there's going to be an application and all this stuff. They might want wet signatures. That means you literally sign it. But more than likely, with the federal grants, I figured out that you need to use ERA Commons most of the time, or the grant.gov workspace. FYI, federal grants is a beast of its own. It's really hard to fill out these federal grants. If you mess up, you're more than likely not going to get taken serious. Sometimes you can turn it in advance and they'll actually kick it back and say, hey, you need to fix X, Y, and Z. But if you turn it in, a couple days before, you might not get that opportunity. We're going to be doing a federal grant workshop coming up soon, so stay tuned. And if you want to hire us for consultation to help you with that grant writing process, feel free to contact me at inlandcompassion@gmail.com. Next, you want to get the resume of your board members. Get a copy of your articles of incorporation, a copy of your bylaws, get a copy of your current budget, get a copy of your nonprofit insurance, and get 3 professional references and letters of commitments. So a lot of grants, especially federal grants, they're going to make it a requirement that you get letters of commitment. So for example, with Inland Compassion, we could get a letter of commitment from one of our partners, Renewing Hope Strategy. So they are going to make a commitment to send us individuals that need that case management. So they'll say, hey, in the Compassion, we have a gentleman here on University that's interested in your services. Can you please go and take on this referral? Things like that, right? So you need to be forging partnerships with as many nonprofits as possible. You want to be out there networking and getting in good with other places, because you guys are going to piggyback off each other, help each other, send each other referrals, and of course, help each other out when it comes to these grants, either with the letter of commitment, references, things like that. Next, make sure to have a website and data documented to prove your record, your track record, and funding sources. So, yes, even if you have an office, make sure you have that website, make sure it's dialed in, make sure you have your mission statement, your vision statement on there, and the services that you have. Um, Again, you want to be documenting your track record, any progress you've made, any people you help, make sure that you're documenting it. So sign in sheets, intake forms, things like that. And of course, show grant makers through your website and other means your funding sources. So for example, how are you getting funded? How have you gotten grants before? Fundraising, donations, things like that. And lastly, create your budget in advance with your prospective budget. So let's say you only got $5,000. So this year you're able to come up with $5,000. That is your budget. Make a budget with that. And then when it's time to fill out the grant application and you can see that, all right, I can apply for 30,000. So I want 30,000. Now you can just combine the two together and it's going to make things a whole lot easier. It's going to save you a lot of time. So I found to be successful with a lot of these time constraints that these grants have, create your budget in advance, save it, and have it ready to go. It's going to save you so much time and headache. Where to look? Did I skip? No. Okay, good. Where to look? So where exactly are you going to go and look for a grant? Well, there's many ways you can find these grants. So first, government websites, of course. And again, I'm going to show you guys all these websites, so don't worry towards the end. But first, you want government websites. Another one is grant.gov. Remember, you need to make an account. In order to make the account, you got to go to sam.gov and get your UEI and cage number. Next, SAMHSA. SAMHSA particularly focuses on mental health and substance abuse. It's a really great website for nonprofits who are doing social services. So SAMHSA all day. Make sure that you're on there looking for their grants. Usually, I believe, if I remember correctly, the beginning of the year is when a lot of these grants start getting announced and the grant application starts opening up. So you need to be observing and monitoring grant.gov and SAMHSA religiously so you can get in on that, right? Next, foundations. You got foundations like the Inland Empire Foundation, Riverside Community Health Foundation, things like that. Uh, Going to these foundations, whether they're a nonprofit, for-profit, philanthropist, things like that, you're gonna find a lot of grant applications on there, and they're pretty good grants, right? The HUD, they do grants. CBD, oh, I spelled it wrong. CDBG grant, of course. A lot of cities, or most cities, have a CDBG grant cycle every year. So make sure that you're monitoring your city's website so you can get in on that too. And then last, or two last things, private companies, for example, Walmart, Nissan, places like that, they do grants. And then of course you got California's grant portal. That's for us, those who are located out of California. You can go in there and find grants as well. So I'll show you guys all these websites towards the end. So now let's do a real life demo. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to reshare my screen. And we're going to look at the CDBG grant application for Moreno Valley. So I'm going to walk you through it. This is how I would do it. Again, remember, I have my mission statement ready. I pretty much have a grant program in mind already, which I have written down where I can more like a cut copy and paste it, tweak it around if I need to. Again, be prepared. So of course, they're going to tell you when it's due, at what time. Remember what I told you. You want to be turning these things in well in advance, maybe 2 weeks in advance, a week max. You got the introductions. They're going to tell you what it's all about. They're going to tell you the funding limitations imposed on it. Here's something super crucial that you need to consider. Right here, they're telling you about the amount that they're expecting to get. They haven't been told what the amount is going to be, but they're guesstimating around 1.9 million, right? So, since we are a nonprofit that helps the unhoused, we are a public service. So, for this grant, only 15% of the money will be going towards public services, right? Which means 296,850 of that dollars will be going towards nonprofits who are providing a service. So, do you think it'd be logical to ask for $200,000? You're pretty much asking for the whole pot. So keep these kind of percentages in mind so you know what to ask for. You don't want to ask for too less, but you do want to ask for what you need, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be held accountable. So the minimum for this grant is 15,000. So we're asking for 45,000 so we can get a work van, right? For outreach. Right here, they show you the funding for all of the year cycles that they had previously. So the guess around 1.9 million is a good guess, right? Here we have our objectives. So our activities is we're doing objective one, activities benefiting low and moderate income persons or households. So that's what we're doing. We're not creating things to make the slums better and things like that because we're not a construction company. And then activity design and community development needs. Again, we aren't doing infrastructure and stuff like that. So here they're going to identify most grants will give you definitions of everything that they're talking about. So there is no confusion because everything has to be perfect on a grant. You want to make zero mistakes. It has to be perfect. Have your board members look over it, have everybody look over it, revise it, make sure that you're on point, right? Here they're going to show you the amount of money an individual or a family can make a year to qualify under their definitions of low income. So here, a family of four making 30,000 a year would qualify to extremely low. So we're targeting those populations and less. Let's keep it going. Again, we're doing a direct benefits public services. They talk about it again, up to 15%, area benefits, things like that. They tell you the things you're allowed to do. Going through, skip those. They showing you eligible activities, things like that. So again, here they give you a map where all the low mod families and individuals are within the city of Moreno Valley. This is important to consider. Let's keep it moving. They have the national objectives for the CDBG. Super important to check out. You want to be reading all these things. Grants will also tell you basically all the meetings that they're going to have. So for this grant, the CDBG, for the city itself, this one is going to, the city council votes on who will end up getting the money. And then they have one for the county, and then the state supervisors decide what's going to happen. So it's in your nonprofit's best interest to go to these meetings, the state supervisor meetings, if you're doing the county CDBG, or the city council meetings if you're doing the city CDBG, because then you can show up to these meetings and advocate, let them know the data, the need, let them know what you guys are doing, give them a heads up so when your application pops up, they're going to be like, yeah, we need inland compassion. They know what they're doing. They're able to give us a need and they have a program in mind that's solid, a good track record. So things like that, right here, minimum grant level, again, they said $15,000. So if you're asking for $10,000, your grant application will be rejected. Program cost. Grants always will tell you what you're allowed to spend the money on when it comes to grants and things like that. So make sure you keep that in mind. Now they're going through legal jargon. So this is just stuff that, you would want to make sure that you're looking over. Over here, they're going to talk about public notices like the consolidation plan and amendments they're going to make to it. This could be very, very important for your grant writing. So you're tailoring your grant to what is going down in the consolidation action plan. So you guys are on the same page. Remember, there has to be similarities in what you guys are going to be doing with your program versus what the city and the CDBG is looking for. And then, of course, they're figuring this out off the community needs assessment that they do themselves. They talk about the public hearings. They have the dates for the public hearings. They talk about how they identified the need, things like that. So these are all super important things you want to be paying attention to, right? So we'll skip through all that. Here they have the dates for the meetings, super important. Mark your calendar, show up with your board and volunteers and everybody to go as a huge team, make a good presence and be like, this is who we are. We are Inland Compassion. We're not playing games. This is what's going down. These are the services that are lacking. We're here to fill in that gap and help these people. And boom, you make a good impression. Remember, you want to make a good impression, you want to be networking. So now they're going to have the instructions on how to fill everything out, what they're looking for. They're going to tell you the review. How do they review everything? They say the city council for a final funding decision. Here, they're going to give you the rubric or the evaluation criteria, administrative capacity, experience and past performance, organization and staffing. 20 points. So this one has the most points. So being able to show them that you have a good administration, being able to articulate your experience and past performance and the organization itself and the staffing you have is going to be the most crucial part of this whole thing. Next, you have identifying the needs, documenting the need, identifying the prior need on the consolidation plan, and meeting city community development objectives. That's 10 points. So remember, I told you, you have to be able to show the need. You have to be able to articulate that in writing. And this is why, right? Next, program design, clear and reasonable methodology, goals clearly stated and attainable, and service levels measure. Basically, what they're saying is they want to see how your program's going to be. Is your goals attainable, reasonable? Is the methods you're using to help people clear and reasonable? And is the services levels measurable? So I'm going to be doing, or we're going to be doing a workshop coming up on YouTube, on our Inland Compassion YouTube, about SMART goals. I'm going to break down SMART goals. What are SMART goals and how do they look like? And this is going to be your bread and butter for any grant that you make. Make sure you're just using SMART goals. Next, reasonable budget and leveraging of funds. Remember, I told you they want to see if you're able to have a budget, use a budget, and how are you going to use the funds, and do you even have a track record of sustainability? So things like that, right? Super, super, super crucial. Once you get a grant, it opens the doors for other grants because now people can take you serious because they see that you were able to budget and manage your money well, right? And then, of course, bonus points for collaboration with another entity. Remember, I told you we want to be networking, networking, networking. And then they have technical quality application completeness, 5 points. So super crucial, super crucial. Right here, you always want to pay attention to this. Online submissions include one copy of the application and one set of documentation specified in section 2 of the application. So your actual application and the attachments that they want, and then a wet signature. So since right now you can only do this online, besides filling out the application with PDF, you're going to have to email them a copy of your wet signatures. Personally, what we did is we made a whole copy of the application itself and our attachments as well as our wet signatures just to be safe. So now they have a written copy with our wet signature and they have the online copy. It's best to be safe than sorry, right? Now we're going to the application itself. Of course, remember I showed you right here, guys, the agency UEI number, the cage code. They want your FIN number. They want to know everything, right? And then they want to know your organization's information, number of volunteers. Here they're going to show you all the attachments that's required. Then they're going to do the public service. That's what we chose. And then right here, my advice to you, provide a detailed description of the proposed project by describing in quantifiable terms precisely what is to be accomplished with the requested funds. This description will be used in application summaries for the city council throughout the application process. So what I did is not only did I talk about the program in SMART goal format, but in the beginning for my hook, I dropped in a statistic: 12% of the homeless, 12% of homeless, there was a 12% rise in homelessness, and we were able to serve, I believe I put, if I remember correctly, 964 individuals in 1 year, as well as saved 142 lives with our Narcan harm reduction distribution. So I was able to use that as a hook and then brought it into the program description with SMART goal format. So the things that we're doing is quantifiable. So I believe we wanted to be able to serve 780 individuals, get 60 off the streets into transitional or permanent housing, with 30% of the individuals we make contact with to link them to mental health and health services through our community partners. So that's just a quick rough draft of what I wrote. We already turned in this grant. We did it fairly quickly, and we're pretty excited about this, right? Again, they want to describe the specific purpose and project goals, past performances, things like that, milestones. So you see, all these things they're asking. If you make your program and budget in advance, I mean, honestly, most of the time you might just be copying and pasting. But again, you want to make sure that it's good, it articulates everything. You want to follow the whole grant. Every single grant is different. So you're not going to be able to copy and paste it majority of time. But at least if you have a good chunk prepared, then like I said, you can mess with it. Of course, your milestones, remember, SMART goals, everything has to be measurable. Once you have things measurable and step-by-step process, creating milestones is going to be pretty fairly easy. How are you going to do the milestones? Look at the start dates that they're looking at and the end dates, and then do some math and do your milestones that way. So I believe we wanted to do community needs assessment, implement the program, and then from there we were going to adjust the program as needed and focus on fundraising and funding and things like that, right? But anyways, I just wrote the grant, so I would have to look back to tell you exactly what I wrote. Anyway, so now they want you need to articulate the total number of individuals to be served. This was fairly easy because we've been a nonprofit for a year now. We've been serving many individuals a certain amount every single month. So I did the average and then I times it by the amount of months that the program is going to be. And that's how I came up with 780 individuals, right? They ask about how many of those are going to be Moreno Valley individuals. 780, because again, we're only doing our services in Moreno Valley. Is this a new service? Technically, it's not, because there has been homeless outreach before. Is it overlapping? Yeah, it's overlapping because there are places that do the type of work that we're doing. However, right here, they ask if it's unique. Yes, it's unique because we're the only ones in Moreno Valley who are actually going to go to the encampments, go to the parks, go to the streets, and bring the services and resources directly to them while we do our case management. So at the end of the day, we have a pretty good shot at this because we're the only ones right now that are going to the individuals instead of waiting for them to come to us. So that's how you want to try to think of the things, and doing that assessment of the community needs and learning about the services already in place. The service gaps will help you to figure out a unique program that's actually attainable and reasonable. So again, right here, they want to know how are you going to figure out who is low income, things like that. Here's the budget. This thing could be very complicated, but if you're prepared like we're going to be, really, you already have all this figured out already, right? And then towards the right, you're going to add the amount of money you're asking for, and then you're already going to add that into your overall program budget and the Moreno Valley budget. And so then you'll show them how much money you're asking from the CBDG and how the budget relates to what you already have and so forth, so they can see the difference. So don't get confused on this. Just remember, you want one budget with the CBDG money, with your money, and then since they want to know how much of that money is helping Moreno Valley, since we're doing all of our service in Moreno Valley, that stays the same. And then on the last part, we only put the money we're requesting and we add it to where we're actually going to use the money. So for us, we're using the money for mileage and a work van and work trailer, supply trailer. So yeah, keep going. Operational cost. They want to know past funding sources and the amount of money that you were funded. This is super important because you want to show them like, hey, we have a track record and we know what we're doing. We know how to budget money and we know how to get money. Over here, they're asking for a lot. They're asking if you have any of these things. If you don't have them, create them and then make the check mark. So like policies, procedures, things like that. Another thing that's super important is make sure your nonprofit has nonprofit insurance. Super crucial, super important, right? And then you keep going. They're talking about the type of insurances they're looking for, all these things. And then towards the end, you're going to sign and date. But my advice to you, print it out before you sign it and date it. So then when you sign it and date it on Adobe, it becomes certified. Then you upload that onto the website. Now you have a printed version. You can do it by hand. You have your Wix signature. Boom, FedEx, done, right? So that's one grant. That's a state grant. So now, like I said, let me show you one last thing, well, two last things, and then we'll call it a day. And let me share my screen again. All right. So first and foremost, I want to show you guys how to find private grants. Of course, you can do Google searches. You want to look for your typical places. There's a lot of places you can look at. So right here is the Walmart Foundation. They do a grant, and the grant basically is paid off by the local Walmart in your community. So this is where you would go to submit a local community grant application. Next, we have SAMHSA. You need to be religiously checking SAMHSA, especially during the beginning of the year, because that's usually when they have grant applications that are going to be announced and opened up. So as you can see, here is the grants that they have currently and their due dates. Next, right, private foundations and philanthropists. Of course, we have IE Community Foundation, and this is a place you can go to find grant opportunities. Boom, here goes the grant opportunities. They tell you what's open and what is closed. For us nonprofits out there that are from California, California Grant Portal is an amazing website. You could select a category, you can put a topic, whatever is clever, and then they're going to show you all the grants that are available. Remember what I was telling you guys about SAM.gov. SAM.gov is something you need to go do to get your UEI and cage number, as well as ERA Commons. So that's super important. And then we have the Board of Supervisors, government websites. For us in Riverside County, we have the state supervisors and we have the local city government websites. So, for example, we would click on our MANS right here, and then we're going to go to grants and sponsorships. And what they got available for us nonprofits right now is the CID application. Follow the instructions. There goes the grant application. And lastly, we got grants.gov. Grants.gov is super important to find federal grants, and usually federal grants provide the most funding and for the most amount of time usually, and it has a grant writing workspace so everybody can get together and team up to fill out the grant. And of course, ERA Commons does the same thing. Let me show you the last slide of the day. And our last slide here, our last two slides, my apologies. The last two slides is community partnerships. Again, Community partnerships are super, super important. I can't emphasize this more. It helps with references and commitment letters. Grant makers want to see partnerships. It helps to get your foot in the door. So if you haven't gotten an award in a grant yet, and you can hop on with some other organization's grant, and you guys get rewarded, boom, you can put that on as your funding sources in the future to show grants that hey, we've been awarded a grant before. Our foot is in the door. We're here to be taken serious. Next, it can help to get funding opportunities in other cities and counties. So if you partner with a nonprofit that's from a different city, boom, now you can apply for grants in those cities that's outside of your own or a county and whatnot. So, guys, please, community partnerships, super important. Make sure you get it going. It can also help to address service gaps that your current program does not address. For example, our program does not provide mental health services such as therapy. We are just a liaison. Again, we're working our MSWs right now, including myself. We're working on licensure, so we're getting pretty close. In about a year, we'll have LCSWs be able to bill Medi-Cal and other insurances. But for now, partnering with an organization that provides those services, who already has those licenses in place, helps us to address our service gaps, right? And things like that. So keep that in mind. This is why community partnerships are important. And also it helps with collecting data. If you are able to team up together, do events together, things like that, one group might bring a certain population that another one might not bring and whatnot. And this just helps with the data collection overall, right? Last but not least, everybody, consultation, bookings, and donations. Here's our Zelle if you would like to donate to our cause. Again, all donations will be provided a receipt, so please make sure that you check your email. If you send us a Zelle, I'm going to send you a receipt for your taxes. Also, all the funds go to the unhoused, so this is going directly to our program. If you want to book us for consultations for grants and nonprofit startup, please email us at inlandcompassion@gmail.com. We can help walk you through the grant writing process, such as the tedious, straining federal grant process, things like that. Or we can help you start your nonprofit, or you can book us to actually write the grant for you. And of course, there'll be an upfront cost for that. And then you can book us for workshops. So if your organization, your company, your private company, or whatnot would like us to host a workshop, we have different workshops we're going to be doing, and we're going to be releasing a website for that soon. So, for example, if you need cultural humility workshop, grant writing workshop, case management workshop, homeless outreach workshop, team building workshop, things like that, we're gonna have a whole list. So please, excuse me, email us at inlandcompassion@gmail.com if you'd like to book us, or you can call or text at 951-385-6314. Again, my name is James Armour, and this was our nonprofit grant writing workshop. If you have any questions or concerns, please comment below in the comments. I love you guys. God bless, and make sure you're doing what? Building those community partnerships, collecting data. All right. And also be prepared, right? I'll talk to you guys soon. God bless.